Well, staying with updates on that front, we're joined via Teams by Professor Christopher Isike, Professor of African Politics and International Relations at the University of Pretoria. And he joins us live to unpack the developments in the Hamas conflict against Israel. Prof, good afternoon. Thank you for your time with us here on the SABC.
Good afternoon, Lizelle, and thank you for having me.
Prof, in view of the developments that have unfolded, and given that there are now South African casualties, perhaps we could try to spotlight on South Africa's stance in the conflict. What have you observed? What's also the role of the BDS movement at large then?
Well, yeah, it's South Africa's foreign policy as it pertains to the Middle East has always been clear and consistent that it seeks a peaceful resolution to the conflict in the Middle East. And so that's why you see South Africa as one of the few countries of the world that have, called for de-escalation on the part of the Israelis, of course, on the part of the Hamas as well. And that kind of road is where the entire world should actually be going to, especially if we look at the ontological aspects of this conflict, and that's one of the things that I think that we have not really looked at in terms of humans. When we look at it from an ontological point of view, we ask the question of whether we are all human beings, and if we are all human beings, from that macro level, we can begin to think of resolving the conflict, understanding that pain and suffering to one set of humans is the same for another set of humans, and that if we want to stop the suffering of every human, irrespective of their geography, irrespective of their race, irrespective of their ethnicity or religion, that we will then solve the problem. Otherwise, we'll keep skirting around who started it, who's worse, who's to blame.
Well, Prof, thank you for those sentiments. With the developments then coming through, the escalation of the conflict, we've now seen that Israel is planning to attack with their boots on the ground post 24 hours. That is obviously edging closer. What do you make of this strategy employed as well as we speak, given the dynamics unfolding?
Well, the Israeli Defense Force has been on the borders of the Palestine area for a very long time now. So it won't be anything for them to simply move in. That's what is suspected. Like you heard the ambassador say, it's a strategy. I'm not sure if the asking them to evacuate is a strategy, but the possibility of the ground forces moving into the Gaza Strip is concerning because it will only add to the suffering of the people, the human beings that occupy the Gaza Strip that may not be affiliated to Hamas or that may not be terrorists. So it's concerning. We will have to wait and see what after the expiration of the 24 hours deadline.
No, we're obviously monitoring developments on that front because with the issuing of that notice, we've now also seen Egypt refusing to open its borders to those who are fleeing the conflict. How is this also adding to the humanitarian crisis then unfolding?
That's what I said earlier on. The humanitarian aspect of the conflict is what many of us have not paid attention to, and it's not just in terms of managing the impact or the effects on people, but is to begin to look at this conflict from a human perspective. The international system is heavily biased against certain kinds of people, certain kinds of human beings. And so many have talked about the contradictions in supporting or condemning one and neglecting the other. What would it take? What would the world be like? What would this crisis be like if everyone who stood in solidarity with the state of Israel also empathized with the people, the ordinary people of Palestine, that may not be affiliated to Hamas, like I said. Why are we having these standards? Why are we not looking at it from that ontological point of humans are the same, and suffering, war, violence affects them the same way? So I think that's where we are missing it, and it will be the beginning of a solution to the problem once we start, changing our mindsets around who is human and who's not.
Prof, that's a valid point, because we're also then trying to understand how international law is still going to be applied in this instance, and or whether other avenues of accountability is going to exist from here into. I want to also look at Lebanon and Hezbollah. Some questioning how far Israel is willing to go. In the same breath, how much can Hezbollah get involved, afford to intervene, given their own the precarious economic situation that they find themselves in? What are you observing on that front?
I think the Hezbollah, backed by Iran, is they are, in my view, I think they are a lot of posturing, because, like you said, they've got Lebanon has got a lot of economic challenges. Will not be able to withstand a full-scale war with Israel, especially with the support that Israel is getting from the rest of the world. But I think it's for them more about, identifying with a people and letting them know that, look, as limited as it may be, we understand you, we support you. I think it's more of that than actually preparing themselves for any kind of onslaught if the state of Israel decides to have it head on with Hezbollah. But there's already been fire exchanges between the two on the borders, So we'll just have to wait and see how this also unfolds.
Prof, thank you for those sentiments and for your time with us on the SABC. We're obviously monitoring developments as we get an update on the situation in Gaza. As we know, to date, there have been 2 South African casualties. We'll leave that conversation there with Prof. Chris Isike and continue with more news and updates.